Okay. This is day 2, I think, of the experiment of recording in the bedroom, which, as I said before, is what I would prefer to do rather than having to set up out there every time. And so we'll see if this... I still have the problem of my face being in shadow. My light is right above and slightly behind me. And so I guess that's the only source of light in this room. And so I guess it creates a shadow on my face, which looks kind of funny. So I'm going to have to get a lamp or something and put it over there or something to create another light source that will make my face not be in shadow so much. I'll have to do that, but don't have that today, so I'll have to put up with my shadowy face one more day. Because I'm ugly anyway, it's not like you're here to see my face. Although seeing the face can help understand what's being said sometimes, if you can see the facial expressions. As I've said before, this text was meant to be read aloud. Being able to hear, you're supposed to hear the speaker speak it, rather than simply sitting in your bedroom and read it or whatever, silently to yourself. These texts were actually meant to be read aloud in a group setting. So, anyway, so we're finally getting into the section of Deuteronomy where Moses is going to be giving them laws. Because we've already been giving them laws since the second half of Exodus. Excuse me. Since Exodus 20, when God Himself gave them the 10 Commandments, we've been giving them laws. And then we've been giving them a bunch of other laws to further elaborate on those 10 Commandments. But all throughout Deuteronomy so far, He's been talking about giving them laws. Today, like that day He's giving this address, this farewell speech. And He hasn't really got around to giving them very many laws so far. He's been mostly restating their history and re-emphasizing over and over and over again the need to be faithful to the covenant. But we are now about to give them some actual laws. This is Deuteronomy 14 we're in right now today. You are the children of the Lord your God. Do not cut yourselves or shave the front of your heads for the dead. For you are a people holy to the Lord your God. That would be similar. That'd be when they part of the public expression of mourning, and the cultures around them would have been to gash themselves, or to disfigure their beards, or to... I'm not really sure exactly what the shaved in front of your heads to the dead is. Like, there must have been some sort of cultural practice where they did that, and the Israelites weren't supposed to follow that. Out of all the peoples on the face of the earth, the Lord has chosen you to be His treasured possession. Do not eat any detestable thing. These are the animals you may eat. We've already read this back in Leviticus, but here we're going to get a reminder. The ox, the sheep, the goat, the deer, the gazelle, the roe deer, the wild goat, the ibex, the antelope, and the mountain sheep. There's a footnote in my text here saying that we really aren't certain what some of these animals are. You may eat any animal that has a split hoof divided in two, and that chews the cud. However, of those that chew the cud, or that have a split hoof completely divided, you may not eat the camel, the rabbit, or the coney. Although they chew the cud, they do not have a split hoof. They are ceremonially unclean for you. The pig is also unclean, although it has a split hoof. It does not chew the cud. You are not to eat their meat or touch their carcasses. Of all the creatures living in the water, you may eat any that has fins and scales. But any that does not have fins and scales, you may not eat. To you, it is unclean. Oh, that counts. You may eat any clean bird, but these you may not eat. The eagle, the vulture, the black vulture, the red kite, the black kite, any kind of falcon, any kind of raven, the horned owl, the screech owl, the gull, any kind of hawk, the little owl, the great owl, the white owl, the desert owl, the osprey, the cormorant, the stork, any kind of heron, the hoopie, and the bat. All flying insects that swarm are unclean to you. Do not eat them. I don't really know what exactly they're talking about when they say swarm. I'm not sure. I don't really know exactly what the idea is there. Insects, I'm not a big fan of the idea of eating insects, period. Is it like insects that move in a big group? There may have been this may have been one of those things where they unintuitively understood what he was talking about because it was cultural shorthand. I don't really know what a swarming insect is. I mean, I don't really know exactly what we classify those as. But they clearly did. Do not eat them. Any winged creature that is clean you may eat. Do not eat anything you find already dead. You may give it to an alien living in any of your towns, and he may eat it. Or you may sell it to a foreigner. But you are a people holy to the Lord your God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. We've heard all of those commands before. Those are not new. Be sure to set aside a tenth of all that your fields produce each year. Eat the tithe of your grain, new wine and oil, and the firstborn of your herds and flocks, in the presence of the Lord your God, at the place he will choose as a dwelling for his name, so that you may learn to revere the Lord your God always. So the first tenth is always dedicated to the Lord. But if that place is too distant, and you have been blessed by the Lord your God, and cannot carry your tithe, because the place the Lord will choose to put his name is too far away, then exchange your tithe for silver, and take the silver with you, and go to the place the Lord your God will choose. I presume the idea is that the meat will rot on your way, or something along those lines. Use the silver to buy whatever you like: cattle, sheep, wine, or other fermented drink, or anything you wish. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God, and rejoice. So you go to the sanctuary, the tabernacle, with the money you got for selling off your tithe, with what you would have offered if you could have brought it to the tabernacle itself. You exchange that for money. You take that money. You can't use that money for yourself or for anything you want. That money is dedicated, consecrated. So you take that money. And then you sell it to buy the stuff that you're going to actually offer when you get there. And this, of course, will end up being abused by the authorities in days to come, when Jesus gets after the money changers and the marketplace and the temple and the Gospels. This is what they're doing, is they're selling these goods to people who need to use their money to buy them. Use the silver, okay, so there we go. Then you and your household shall eat there in the presence of the Lord your God and rejoice. And do not neglect the Levites living in your towns, for they have no allotment or inheritance of their own. And we've already read about this command to offer their tithes. But that again was given in the context of the wandering people who are all traveling together as a big camp. This is reframing it slightly to fit their lifestyles of living in towns in their land better, because they weren't doing that up to this point in time. At the end of every 3 years, bring all the tithes of that year's produce and store it in your towns, so that the Levites, who have no allotment or inheritance of their own, and the aliens, the fatherless, and the widows, who live in your towns, may come and eat and be satisfied, and so the Lord your God may bless you in all the works of your hands. And a cat up there, making sure she doesn't cause any trouble. At the end of every 7 years, you must cancel debts. This is how it is to be done. Every creditor shall cancel the loan he has made to his fellow Israelite. He shall not require payment from his fellow Israelite or brother, because the Lord's time for canceling debts has been proclaimed. In the end, we all are indebted to God. Whatever debts we may owe to each other pale in comparison to the debt we all owe to God. And we have no choice or chance ever of paying that debt back. So we're completely at the mercy of God to cancel that debt for us. So we should take that lesson to heart. I'm sorry, I keep looking up there because I have a cat who's, I'm not too crazy about the look that cat has in her eyes right now. And so we should all keep in mind the debt that we ultimately owe and cannot pay to God, and be humble when it comes to keeping track of our own debts and our own credits. You may require payment from a foreigner, but you must cancel any debt your brother owes you. Your brother being, of course, a fellow Israelite. However, there should be no poor among you, for that in the land the Lord your God is giving you to possess as your inheritance, He will richly bless you, if only you fully obey the Lord your God, and are careful to follow all these commands I'm giving you today. There will always be poor among them. Jesus himself even says this in the Gospels. So they're not going to be faithful. They're not going to be faithful enough to remove all poor and poverty. I don't think any human civilization anywhere has ever done that. For the Lord your God will bless you as He has promised, and you will lend to many nations that will borrow from none. You will rule over many nations, but none will rule over you. If there is a poor man among your brothers in any of the towns of the land the Lord your God is giving you, do not be hard-hearted or tight-fisted toward your poor brother. That's a lesson the Republicans need to learn today now, isn't it? That's always been their problem as a political party. Rather, be open-handed and freely lend him whatever he needs. Be careful not to harbor this wicked thought. The 7th year, the year for canceling debts, is near. So you do not show ill will toward your needy brother and give him nothing. If you know the debt's going to be canceled and you're not going to be able to claim it in a couple of years or less, you might not be willing to make out a loan. You might be thinking, this is money I'm just throwing away. I'm going to loan this guy something, but I know he's not going to pay me back. And in a year or two, I'm going to have to cancel the debt, so I'm never going to see that money again. Don't harbor that wicked thought. That's not what should be entering your mind. He may then appeal to the Lord against you, and you will be found guilty of sin. Give generously to him, and do so without a grudging heart. Then, because of this, the Lord your God will bless you in all your work, and in everything you put your hand to. There will always be poor people in the land. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed towards your brothers, and toward the poor and needy in your land. If a fellow Hebrew, a man or woman, sells himself to you and serves you 6 years, then in the 7th year you must let him go free. And when you release him, do not send him away empty-handed. Supply him liberally from your flock, your threshing floor, and your winepress. Give to him as your Lord your God has blessed you. Remember that you were slaves in Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. That is why I give you this command today. But if your servant says to you, I do not want to leave you, because he loves you and your family and is well off with you, then take an awl and push it through his earlobe into the door. Ouch. And he will become your servant for life. Do the same to your maidservant. I am assuming after you've done this, you will release the servant from the door. So he's not tacked to your doorpost forever. I'm assuming, of course, this represents a situation in which the owner is taking reasonably good care of his servant. I doubt any servants would choose to stay with the owner if the owner was mistreating them or cheating them or things like that. I don't know how often that would have happened. I suppose, envision an ideal scenario in which that would. I'm sorry. There's a cat up there, and I am not fond of. Okay, there she goes. She's actually on the move now. Looks like she's going to settle up for her morning nap, or late morning nap. Well, maybe I spoke too soon. I don't know how many times the situation would have actually played out in their history. I mean, our history of slavery here in this country is extremely messy. And I don't know how many slaves would have willingly stayed with their masters when slavery was still around in our country or in our cultural experience. And I don't know, I mean, if you look at the history of slavery throughout most of the world, slaves were not treated well pretty much anywhere you go, any point in time. So I don't know how often. I mean, theoretically, ideally, Israel would have been better. I mean, they're supposed to be God's chosen people, but I don't know in practice how well that worked or if it did. Set apart for the Lord. Wait. Okay. Do not consider it a hardship to set your servant free, because his service to you these 6 years has been worth twice as much as that of a hired hand. And the Lord your God will bless you in everything you do. I'm not sure if that means he's working twice as the amount, whether you're the hired hand or you're getting his work for free. Like if you're a hired hand, a day laborer, you go there to the market in the morning and hire these people, and then you pay them when the sun goes down, basically. And you do that every day, That's what Jesus gives a parable about that later on in one of the Gospels, about the day laborers who get hired to work till sundown, basically, and get paid for each day. I don't know if that means that if he's your slave, he doesn't. You don't. I'm sorry. There's a cat here, and I'm just constantly afraid this cat is going to come and attack this camera. Yeah, there she goes. She's finally out of the picture. Okay. Whew. All right. I don't know if the idea here is that with a slave, okay, a day laborer went home at sunset. You had to pay the guy his wages, and he left. You had no more control over him after that. I don't know, maybe the idea is that the slave doesn't have that option, like he doesn't get to go home at sunset. You can continue making him work, even if it's not daytime. I don't know. I don't know what degree that would even been theoretically possible. Another cat about to annoy me. Or if it means that you're getting the same amount of work, but you're not paying him because he's your slave. Day laborer, you have to actually pay him something. You'd actually have to pay him a wage, a daily wage. A slave, you wouldn't have to pay. So maybe the idea is that you're getting the same amount of work, but you're getting it for free, so therefore it's worth twice as much. I really don't know exactly. But slavery was only meant to be a 6-year thing. In the 7th year, I think it's the 7th year from the time the guy sold himself to you. It's not a fixed every 7th year. The year of Jubilee was every 7/7. Those years were fixed. The year of canceling debts, every 7th year was fixed. And the year of the Jubilee, which was every 7/7, or the year after the 7/7, that was fixed. The freeing the slaves apparently happened the 7th year after he sold himself to you and became your slave. So that wasn't necessarily fixed. I mean, it was fixed from the time he became your slave. So basically, if you did this, if you found yourself needing to do this, you're selling yourself for a period of 6 years and you'd be set free in the 7th. Set apart for the Lord your God every firstborn male of your herds and flocks. We've heard about this before too. Do not put the firstborn of your oxen to work, and do not shear the firstborn of your sheep. Each year you and your family are to eat them in the presence of the Lord your God at the place he will choose. If an animal has a defect, is lame or blind, or has any serious flaw, you must not sacrifice it to the Lord your God. So you can only sacrifice your best. You are to eat it in your own towns. Both the ceremonially unclean and the clean may eat it, as if it were gazelle or deer. But you must not eat the blood. Pour it on the ground like water. Let's go ahead and start a new video.